So with that, let me introduce our first speaker, Dr. Arturo Molina, and he's Vice President of Research, Postgraduate Studies, and Continuous Education at Tecnológico de Monterrey. Sorry, I had a little tough time with that one. And we decided that we're not going to, I have a whole page on every one of these people, but we decided if we did that, we wouldn't have as much time for question and answers. So you can read all about Professor Molina's background, and it's very impressive, but I will just turn the podium over to him. Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Well, I would like to begin my presentation just to give you some challenge and trying to be a bit provocative. So I'm going to use some terminology that we are not using anymore, but I believe that it will make my point clear for the future presentation, or the presentation I'm presenting. I named my presentation Education That Makes Sense for a Dynamic World because when I was invited to be a speaker, I say, well, education is changing so fast that it has to make sense of what we want to achieve really by educating people, because we really believe that education is really something that it will sustainable the world, and we want 100% of the people to be really well educated. So the first question that arises, and I'm going to use this word again that we used to use, blue collars. Do we need blue collars? Are we going to need blue collars in the future? That's Baxter, the robot, and it's really a high-level robot who can really teach how they can assemble pieces. So it's really a next generation robot, and probably Harry is very happy right now because it's helping him to work, but in the future, probably Harry is not going to have that type of work. So that is a question of where, with these new areas of the future of manufacturing and how we are going to address technologies that are going to help us to have really factories without workers. So what are we going to need with the workforce? What are we going to do with the workforce? We need to really face that challenge in the future. And then going back to academy also, we have this idea, do we need teachers? And we see that there is a lot of things going on also in education, and there is a lot of robots around them that they are now taking the role of the teachers. So it's not only manufacturing, but it's also education. And when we face this challenge, we said, then what is the role of a teacher? If he's only a person who is going to connect with you and communicate knowledge, it's not enough. You have to change the role and the competence of the teacher to really face the challenge of the next generation of young people. The millennials or Generation Z, or the people who's going to come. Thomas mentioned, 10, 15 years, all the children are going to be looking for jobs, but another type of jobs. Also, we teachers, if we don't do something, we're going to face this challenge of why I'm here, what is going to be the next generation of teachers. But if we go forward and say, can robots be managers too? And the question is because if we see how we are managing information, we talk about Internet of Things, we talk about big data, we talk about artificial intelligence, decision making. We believe that there is some type of decision where you can place really a lot of information and do an analysis and make decision process so automated that you can really have team of deadlines, procedures, and progress managed by robots. So we're facing a big challenge because technology is really going into singularity, and we need to see what is going to be the role of people. So I say, remember this? Big Blue defeating two of the greatest players. Smart machines versus smart people. It's a question that we have to ask. Someday, I was talking with some people from the human side of our social science school, and they said, I don't want to hear about intelligent machines, intelligent cars, intelligent cities, smart cities, or whatever. I want to talk about smart people, intelligent people. So that's something that we have to really understand in order to face the challenge that we are going to really, really tackle in the future. So the challenge really is human talent for a new world, smarter people. And my kids love these cartoons, you know, Pinky and Brainy and the Brain. And he's always asking, you know, Pinky, are you pondering what I am pondering? I think so, Brain. But if we are going to teach critical thinking, when we need to be able to of critical thinking ourselves. And I think that's one of the things which is going to move really fast in the next decade in education, and of course that will also change how we see education in the future, and of course what is going to be the role of the people at the factories and the people at the enterprises, of creating new types of enterprise. And also we're going to hear this idea of sensing enterprise, smart enterprise, and we have to really have smart people managing these new types of enterprises. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I believe is going to be this challenge. I'm going to talk about the new learning process, focus on the right competencies, finding the right educational partners around the world, using novel educational technologies, maximizing alignment of human talent for the right jobs, and changing the paradigm of education is an investment, not a cost. I have still 30 minutes, so I'm going to go through all these 6 challenges ahead. The first thing is, and I also going to say, Thomas said, learning is a continuing process. But then what you have to do really is to understand what are these type of knowledge that the people requires in order to be more successful really for the future enterprises. And it has to be with STEAM, it has to be with competent-based skills, the use of information technology. Information technology really changed how we are working, how we are learning, how we are really living in social networks and so on, and of course self-learning. And I call all this sustainable learning. That means you have to be educated for the future, and it's very important that you really have not only the knowledge and the right knowledge to do the thing, but you have to have a broader sense of abilities that will help you to really be successful in the future. And when we talk about that, we talk about creativity and innovation, we're talking about critical thinking, we're talking about collaboration and communication, which has what we call it the soft skills to really change how we humans are going to be really doing a great job at our enterprises. And of course, we need to learn how to teach this, and we need to somehow change the behavior of the people, because we are not used to use our brains anymore. Sometimes we are just used to do repetitive work and so on. So it's really going to be a big challenge about this. Also, when we talk about finding the right educational partners around the world, we see that, of course, with the Internet of Things, knowledge is everywhere. Of course, you need to have critical thinking to analyze this information and try to use and get the best of it. And of course, we're talking about MOOCs, mass online open courses like Coursera, and we're talking about technical school, college and universities, equipment suppliers, which are going to be also really good partners in educational partners in this, we call it the next generation of education training school. There are some schools that train you for getting a job. In India, there are some schools that they charge you $100, but then you offer a job after you are training in information technology, for example. So there are also going to be a lot of new models of education. And of course, if we get universities or we schools and college, we don't change our own model, we are going to need to face a really big challenge about that. And of course, but the critical and the most critical thing about it is the person itself, and we say self-learning is a must. And I invite you to go to the exposition of Leonardo da Vinci, which is great about machines and all things here happening in Milan. It's great. But he was a self-learner. He really taught himself everything he knew about painting, about sculpture, about machines, and of course science and mathematics and so on, and he was a really complete artist. Also, when we face this challenge, it's going to be also very important to use novel educational technologies, and when we talk about using novel educational technologies, and you are going to see some of the sponsors of these conferences that we, of course, we're doing MOOCs, but also we are trying to use more augmented and virtual reality. Why? Because the movement is very fast. We have the computing capacities to really do augmented and virtual reality for training people. Some of the research projects that we have been working at the European level has to do with this new idea of using this as a really training on the site and the spot to people in the factories. Of course, there is this idea of the challenge-based learning, when you really put the challenge to the worker and they have to solve some of the problems. We were working with Pemex company, which is the largest oil petroleum company in Mexico, and we are doing challenge-based learning with all the workers, because you have to put them a problem and they have to solve the problem inside in the pilot plants that they are having. And of course, serious gaming is also something that we have to look into, because the next generation of people is coming. We have millennials right now, but in the future we're going to have the Generation Z, and they have been using gaming since they are born. So we have to look for new technologies to really get the best of it, of information technology. And of course, intelligent futures that are going to be an answer also to this idea of what is the role of the teacher. Of course, if you can really build up on artificial intelligence techniques, you can have intelligent tutors. And also, what is also very important is that you have to maximize the alignment of human talent for the right jobs. And sometimes, really, that's a big issue in companies. They say that only 12% of the companies report alignment of talent goals and the business objective. Why you hire someone to do exactly the right job so you can achieve the objectives of the business? So that's also very important. So if we are going to be really leading a next generation of manufacturing companies or next generation of manufacturing system, what is the right people for the right job in order that you can achieve the business objectives of doing more innovation, more creativity, improved process, and so on. And of course, last but not least, changing the paradigm of education is an investment of the cost. And we're struggling this at the universities because in the last 3 years, they say the education doesn't pay back. And if you get the credit, you were never going to be able to pay back. But when you do the analysis of what's happening on employer rate and what is happening, we see that really when you get educated, you receive better salaries. Of course, you have less employer rate. But then what is going to happen with the base? We need somehow to move really the whole population of people into getting not exactly a degree, but at least the right competence to do the right job. And we have to stop thinking about blue collar. We have to start thinking about smart people doing the right job in order that you can achieve the business goal of the company. And that's something which is really we're going to face as a big challenge, because there are people that are unique, they are not really repeatable, and there are no clones. So you have to face with the culture aspect and also with the behavior aspect of the things and also with the values of the culture of the people. And that's something that we still are struggling on how to do that. I just want to mention something that what is happening, at least in Mexico, in terms of new talent for manufacturing. Guanajuato is a state of Mexico with a boost in the automobile industry. Nissan company has built up one of the largest assembly lines in León, Guanajuato. But when they did the labor market study of 320 companies, 38 of them were internationally, they said, we still don't have really, they are struggling trying to find the right talent with this experience, specialists, also people who really know how to process materials, how to do manufacturing process, and so on. And of course, if you have that type of people, you are not expecting to have low wages. You have to pay the right thing. And I think that is something that's going to also change. I also like the talk in the morning. I said, really the future is not about low wages in a country, but really innovation and about finding the right people for the right job. And of course, language is an issue, and geography and location is not attractive, then you have to find the best attractive place for the right talent. But 100% agree that we need to strengthen the relationship among academia, government, and industry, and we have to work on that. And just to make a point about that is that, at least in Mexico, in the last presidency, they created this program, Conocer, which what it's trying to do is to make a standards on competence for specific industries. So it's more a competence-based skill training. So we have standards for the automotive industry, for the household sector, manufacturing sector, electricity, and aeronautical. We are working on that. And what is really important here is that you take the competence with you to the next job. And that also paybacks for the people. So really what we're trying to do now is to really move all the people at the workforce level to really obtain the right competence so they can have the right salaries, the right jobs at different industries. Just as a conclusion, I will say that the new skills for a new working place is something that we have to face very fast. Soft skills with technical skills, I believe soft skills is something that it has to be taught and somehow it has to be practiced. Self-learning, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. Of course, new educational models are going to be more based on competence-based education and learning for life. And of course, we have the right technology, information and communication technology are there to really be used in favor of training the people. And we have to be prepared for the new generation of workers, not millennials, but Generation Z. And there is a very good presentation about Generation Z in the internet, so you have to start looking for that type of presentation. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.